Hey there, I'm Shelby from Shelby Down Makeup. 6.5 years ago, I graduated with a diploma in makeup artistry from Canadian Beauty College, and I've been professionally freelancing ever since. I've done countless photo shoots, theatrical productions, music videos, short films, and I've also had one of my creative looks featured on Good Morning America. For today's demo, we're going to be doing an evening look with a smoky eye. Now those can be a bit tricky, so I go in depth with tips and tricks on how to do it for yourself as well as on a client. I was really inspired by super glowy skin and bronze, which is very in right now, so that will be reflected in our look. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to reach out to me on Instagram. Otherwise, let's get started. I start off by sanitizing my hands in front of my client. This, along with a clean workstation, makes your client or your model more comfortable knowing you've taken the necessary steps to protect them and their skin. I use micellar water off camera to cleanse, so we're starting with fresh, clean skin. Makeup and skincare go hand in hand, so it's important to prep the skin before you start with complexion products. Some people don't know what type of skin they have, so I often feel for any dryness in areas with extra oil production. I know she's a combination skin. She's oily in her T-zone and on her cheeks, but dry around the perimeter of her face. I'm using a dry oil that will quickly rehydrate to ensure all products we use on top sit flawlessly on the skin. I'm using Urban Decay's eyeshadow primer to prep the lids. I apply it with a brush to get an even coverage, then I use the warmth from my finger to press it into the skin. I'm then using the Elizabeth Arden Lip Fix Cream, but you can use any hydrating balm. Using a dense flat brush, I place the highlight on her brow bone. I like to either tap off the excess powder or tap on the back of my hand. When it's on the back of my hand, it gives me more control when applying by knowing the intensity of the color going onto the lid. Then using a fluffy brush, I start with the lightest neutral shade, then gradually add darker tones for contrast. My model has close-set hooded eyes, so I'm going to use specific placements and techniques to enhance her shape. I like to map out my placement with the eyes open because for hooded eyes, we have to lift the crease. I'm also angling the shadow to help widen the eyes without having to do a winged eyeliner. When it comes to a smoky eye, it's all about blending. Throughout this demo, you'll see me go back to previous brushes because I'm blending as I go. I like to slowly build up the color, preventing any harsh lines from forming, and then it gives me the opportunity to add back what may have been lost. I love mixing colors, so you'll always see me dip into multiple shades, which helps flawlessly blend the shadow. When I get to the deeper tones, I want to change my brush shape. I want more control when I'm blending in a smaller area like the outer corner, so this little fluffy brush from BH Cosmetics is definitely one of my favorites, and the whole brand is super affordable. It's not always necessary, but I'm using an eyeshadow stick from Lise Wattier as a base. Some other people may use concealer, but with my model's eyes, I want as much control as possible when shaping her lid. I then use a small dense brush to pack on the bronzy shimmer. Of course, with a smoky eye, the lid is going to be the darkest. You have full creative freedom how dark you want to go. It's all depending on the shape of the eye and the amount of space between the lid and the crease. For my model, I'm strategically placing the darkest color on the outer corner without going past the pupil. Putting it too close to the inner corner will make her eyes look smaller. I often jump around the face, so next is brows. My model has them tattooed, but she needs a bit more fullness. Don't be afraid to ask your client if you can clean up a few strays if they're in your way. This will ensure the end result is polished. With my angled brush, I scoop out some NYX gel liner onto the back of my hand. This will prevent double dipping and in turn prevent the spread of bacteria. We want to get as close to the lash line as possible, so lifting the lid helps access the extra bit of space some people have between their lid and their lash line. I find I have to do this with hooded eyes and mature clients. A trick to get smooth liner for yourself and your client is to look in the opposite direction of the brush. You'll often see me telling my clients to look down in the opposite direction because that gives me the opportunity to get right on that lash line in the inner corner. Curling another person's lashes takes practice, but it's important to take your time. Clients who are jumpy will appreciate you going slow and telling them what you're doing as you're doing it. I will always ask if I'm pinching before pumping the curler to ensure the lashes don't fall throughout the application. Then with a disposable wand and mascara, I prep the lashes to seamlessly blend with the falsies. I pre-measured these lashes off camera and they didn't need to be trimmed, but if they were too long, I would always trim them from the outer end. Double check by placing them on the lash line without glue and then make adjustments. Once your glue turns clear and gets tacky, you want to slowly apply. I get my client to look down as I place it as close to the lash line as possible, pressing down the ends and using the back of my tweezers to press down the middle. I then get my client to close their eyes fully. This will give me the opportunity to see if the middle buckles before it dries. If you don't fix this, your lash could come off or gape when you blink. I like to lift from the bottom and then gently pinch the natural lash to the falsie. Similar techniques can be used when you're applying falsies on yourself. I find looking down into a mirror helps get right onto that lash line. Now that the lashes are on, this lets me see if I have to deepen any of the shadow for more contrast. After I do that, I then go in with some gel liner to blend the lash band. Now let's jump into complexion. I'm using the Smashbox Photo Finish Primer, and this will help smooth the look of fine lines and pores as well as prevent shine. Then I use the Smashbox Under Eye Primer. This helps hydrate and prevent creasing. Finding the right color of foundation can be hard, but there are a few tips that can help you find you or your client's undertone. First, take a look at your veins. If they're more blue, you have a cooler undertone. If they're more green, you're warmer, and if you're in between, then you're neutral. I also like to ask what jewelry my clients tend to wear, because that is a good indication on the undertone as well. Gold is typically worn by warm tones, silver is cool tones, and if you can wear both, like my model, you're more neutral. I spritz my beauty blender with setting spray to get it a little damp to help blend. I like to apply in thin layers, adding a bit more product where it's needed. Stippling with the sponge helps build coverage without packing product on. Now that you have an even base, you have to go back in to create dimension and bring color back to the skin. I mix MAC, cream contour color and apply to the hollows of the face or where I want shading. A good guide is to go from the top of the ear in the direction of the corner of your mouth. Similar to the eyeshadow, you don't want to go past the pupil. After contour, I apply NARS Soft Matte Concealer, placing strategically to the highest points of the face and anywhere that needs brightening or concealing. I'm going to set with my favorite loose translucent powder from Dermablend, and this helps prevent creasing, shine, and blotchiness. I'm using a small brush to control where I'm placing the powder because I don't want to completely mattify the skin. I now want to set the cream contour I applied, so with an angled brush, I mix Kat Von D powders to customize my shade. Having an angled brush helps get right under the cheekbone and softens your blend. I like to add blush on top and then reblend with my angled brush. Depending on the event and the skin type, I may use setting spray in between every powdered layer. I typically do it before I highlight, so your skin is a bit damp, making the pigment pop. Going back to eyes, I'm using a dark brown waterproof liner from Lise Watier. These are great in professional kits because they have a built-in sharpener, making this product easier to keep clean. I use a clean, angled brush to push up against the lash line, and this liner is giving me a base for the eyeshadow I'm going to use on top to blend it. Similar to the top lid, I'm going to use the same range of shades from dark to light to seamlessly blend the lash line. Another trick I learned over the years was to use a flat brush to paint mascara on the bottom lashes. Depending on you or your client's eye shape, a disposable wand may be too big and leave mascara on your freshly done foundation. Painting on a few layers gives you more control and no clumps. A smoky eye should typically be paired with a more natural lip, but I still wanted a bit of a pop. So I went with a deeper, natural lip liner and a tinted gloss that's in the same color family as the eyeshadow I chose. This gloss is actually from Essence, which is a super affordable brand found at Shoppers Drug Mart. And if you need to clean up the edges, you can always use a flat brush with the concealer we used earlier. Now it's time for any last touch-ups, so I always check the lashes to ensure they're not lifting or they're not poking the client, as well as the liner to be sure it's fully blended. I then do a final spray. And here is our final look. Thank you so much for tuning in, and if you have any questions about the process or products, you can always message me on Instagram at ShelbyDownMakeup.